Hi, my name is Corporal Jack Andreano. I'm with the Mount Dora Police Department, and I brought with me my fiance, Christine Ambriano. Tell them about yourself.
I'm with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. I'm on our crisis intervention team, which is a specialized team with the Sheriff's Office that deals with mental health issues and people in crisis.
All right, so today we're mainly going to be talking about the signs of suicide. So what to be looking for in friends and family who may be suffering from thoughts of suicide. So suicide is a very serious public health problem that can have long-lasting effects on individuals, families, and communities. Between 2000 and 2020, we've seen a 30% increase in the rates of suicide. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among high school-aged youth, and that's second only to unexpected injuries.
In the past year, students reported that they seriously considered attempting suicide. It's about 18.8%. 15.7% made a plan about how they would attempt suicide. 8.9% attempted suicide one or more times. And 2.5% attempted suicide that resulted in injury, poisoning, or overdose that had to be treated by a doctor or a nurse.
I think we can all agree talking about suicide is a very difficult thing. So we want to do a little bit of an exercise with you.
So one of the biggest things that helps prevent suicide, especially in friends and family members, is just asking the question, are you thinking about killing yourself? I know for me it was an extremely difficult question to ask when I had never done it before, so I'm going to ask you guys to bear with me. If you would turn to the person next to you, behind you, across from you, and just ask, are you thinking about killing yourself? Ready, go. Thank you. Good. Thank you guys. Now that you've asked the question, somebody sitting next to you, I hope that it's a little bit easier for you to do when you recognize some of these signs and symptoms we're going to be telling you about.
So thoughts of suicide are often hidden because youth are confused. It's, you're going through puberty in a lot of cases. It's a trying time for you. So it can be embarrassing or even shameful to the person. So it's very difficult to talk about. Again, that's why it's critically important that you not be afraid to speak to your friends and family about this very sensitive issue. So research has shown that 50 to 90% of parents were unaware that their children had suicidal thoughts. And 60 to 95% of parents were unaware of suicide attempts reported by their children.
So over 90% of people who die by suicide have a mental health disorder. Most commonly, that mental health disorder is going to be depression. Depression is treatable, but without treatment, a person may begin to feel so hopeless that they consider suicide. Never be afraid to reach out to a law enforcement officer, teacher, or counselor, or family member and talk about these feelings if you're feeling that way.
So it's a state requirement, at least in the state of Florida, that every school have a school resource officer inside it. Public school, that is. By a show of hands from the students, does everyone know their school resource officer? Yes, excellent. So they're a wonderful resource for you. Never be afraid to go to your school resource officer. Everything is kept confidential, and it's a really good, easy person to talk to, along with counselors and teachers. So substance use goes hand in hand with the thoughts of depression. So many youths struggle with depression, also struggle with alcohol and or drug use. There are many dangers, obviously, to using alcohol and other various narcotics, but something that most people don't know, there are zero repercussions if you report somebody using narcotics that is having, say, an overdose or a health crisis. So for example, if we get a call about a person who's overdosing and we go to the house and there are drugs everywhere, and that person is not going to get charged for having possession of any of those narcotics. Too often we see people who are with their friends, they're experimenting with drugs, they overdose, and then their friends don't know what to do, and ultimately that person ends up dying because they don't take the right action. We're never going to respond and put people in prison, jail, what have you, for calling about something as serious as an overdose, where the most important thing is getting people saved. So, if you ever are in a situation or your friends are ever in a situation where you are in that horrible position where somebody might be overdosing, don't hesitate to call. Again, no one's getting charged for having narcotics in that case.
Non-suicidal self-injury. Non-suicidal self-injury is when someone hurts their body on purpose without the intention of dying. So a lot of the times you'll see people cutting themselves. That's the most common way to do it. You'll see it either here on their wrist. Some people who don't want to be found out or don't want to be seen will do their inner thigh, or we've seen it where they're actually cutting the top of their foot, so they don't want it to be seen. Some people try to use self-injury to try to manage emotional pain. So like I said, depression is one of the more common ones. They feel so hopeless that the only way that they want to express that pain or try to feel that pain is through self-injury. Even though self-injury isn't the same as a suicide attempt, it is a risk factor. So keep that in mind.
So something to look for in your friends and your loved ones. If you're noticing any fresh bruising or scars, you really want to call attention to that. So again, things to watch and listen for. You want to look for a significant change in behavior, particularly extreme withdrawal. Now, a lot of kids want to be left alone to play video games and stuff. That's not what we're talking about per se. But if you do see people locking themselves away in their room, depressed, that's obviously a big sign. Giving away prized possessions is a really big one. If something that somebody would normally never part with and they're offering it up to friends, that's a big indicator. Increased or decreased amounts of sleep, anger or hostility that is out of character or out of context, increased agitation or irritability, and you want to listen for talk about suicide, sounding hopeless or sounding overwhelmed by emotional pain or distress.
So it is okay to talk about suicide. A lot of people think that when you talk about suicide to somebody who is thinking about suicidal thoughts or who you suspect might be thinking about suicide, it puts the idea in their head and they're more likely to do it if you bring it up. That is a complete myth. The truth is, you don't give a suicidal individual thoughts of suicide just by bringing it up. In fact, kind of like what we did with the exercise before, it's encouraged to actually get them to speak to you openly and honestly about how they're feeling in order for them to manage their depression or get help for that suicidal thought or feeling.
And that is the message today. Make it about having an open conversation about these things. So remember to act, acknowledge that you are seeing signs of depression or suicide, and that it is serious. Care, let your friend know how much you care about them, and tell a trusted adult so that your friend can get help.
Just to conclude, we have a couple of national resources that are up here. So obviously the Suicide Prevention Lifeline is a big one. They're there 24/7. So if you have a conversation with somebody or you're worried about somebody, you can actually call in on behalf of somebody else and they will actually reach out to them. There's actually a text line as well, so you can text ACT to 741-741. They're also available 24/7 to give support. It's completely confidential. They're not going to blow up your spot if you text them or call them, but it's a great way to kind of get help if you don't feel comfortable talking to anybody else about feelings, or if you know somebody that may feel uncomfortable talking to people about their feelings. I know in Orange County we also have 211. That's a huge resource in case y'all want to take advantage of it. They actually send mobile crisis teams out to people's homes as well as their businesses and schools, just in case anybody's in crisis and needs to talk to a counselor right away. So that's another phone number or text line you can use.
And of course, you have your local law enforcement, friends, family. So never be afraid to talk about it. If anything you take away today, please spread the word and be comfortable speaking with people about suicide prevention.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.